Yeah, for sure. And then another bantamweight fight that's coming up this weekend, we got Song Yadong versus Ricky Simón.
Yeah.
It got postponed, and now it's going to be the main event coming up this UFC Fight Week. Winner will certainly be looking to start a title run off the back of a win here. Song is a very good fighter. Ricky Simón, excellent wrestler. Both these guys are young, strong, tenacious, good grappling, cardio for days. It's pretty much a pick 'em. I believe that Ricky Simón is a slight favorite, but I could be wrong. I could have that backwards.
Yeah, I think Ricky Simón is the Merab 2.0 of, and I don't mean that as he's better than Merab, but he's like the second coming of Merab for the bantamweights. Like, nobody wants to fight Ricky Simón, and everybody's been, talking about all the big names in that division, but they're avoiding Merab and they're avoiding Ricky Simón, and for good reason. Those two guys have endless gas tanks, and they're very difficult to beat stylistically, especially if you can get them in there in a 3-round fight. It's almost impossible to beat those two guys and their style of fighting in 3 rounds. So Song Yadong is going to have to probably drag this into the later rounds, but he's not all that familiar with the 5-round fights, especially not in the UFC. So that does sort of leave me with a few questions. And I think Song Yadong is a great fighter. He's clearly got a lot of power in his striking, and he does have what it takes to be a future star for the UFC. He's so young, but I don't really see him having the skill set to beat Ricky Simón. And I think Ricky Simón is one of those undeniable guys, one of those undeniable forces at 135 who's eventually just going to make his way to the top, whether it's the hard way or he gets launched in because somebody at the top decides they're willing to throw him a bone and give him a fight. But I don't know. I see Ricky Simón getting his hand raised in this one, and I think this is a great fight for him because he needs to become more active, and jumping into a main event slot only means good things when you're a fighter and the UFC gives you that opportunity.
Yeah, he's just too strong and tenacious. I'm going to go with Simón to win this as well. I think he's good. I think Song's going to be tough early on. You know, he's got some real quick kicks. He's got good, powerful hands. Yeah. He's also got a good gas tank, but I don't think it's quite the gas tank that Simón's going to have, especially once the wrestling begins. And we know Ricky Simón is eventually going to get his hands on Song Yadong, and that's when you're going to see that cardio start to tick, tick, tick down. And so I'm going to predict let's call round 4 or 5 finish for Ricky Simón. I think he's going to wear Song down, and probably either by submission or ground and pound stoppage, we're going to see Ricky Simón get a technical knockout.
Yeah, that's a good call. I'm seeing it go in all 5 because I think Ricky's got good skills. He's got good submissions. He's got powerful hands, but he really is a grinder. He knows how to put you up against the cage, keep you there for a little while and make it miserable, and then take you to the ground and make your life a little bit more miserable once he gets you down there. And I just see him doing that, rinse and repeat over and over again for all of the rounds. And, Ricky Simón is also one of those guys that is able to implement his game plan from the start of the fight to the very end and almost seem like he doesn't drain his energy at all. I almost said shy away, but drain his energy whatsoever. Like, once the 5th round's over, it's going to seem like he could probably go another 5 rounds doing the exact same thing he's doing. Which is crazy because wrestling is exhausting even if you're winning all the exchanges. But the difference between the winning and losing of wrestling and what happens with your energy is if you're winning, you're getting this mental, push. And it's almost like this second wave of energy that you get. Even though you're exhausted because you're doing something that's so difficult, you're able to keep some form of energy because you're winning the exchanges. It's very demoralizing when you're losing those wrestling exchanges and you can't seem to get up and you use all your power and energy to try to burst out of something and then it doesn't work, or a minute or two later you find yourself up against the cage being dragged down again. So it can be very tough on the mental side of a fighter if they fight somebody like Ricky Simón or Merab and they just happen to keep getting put on the ground. So I think Ricky Simón's going to get this thing done, probably all 5 rounds, and it's going to be like a 49-46 for him.
Yeah, that's a really good point because wrestling at face value is extremely exhausting. Grappling of any kind, fighting of any kind, but especially the grappling arts are very exhausting for both people involved. But the person that's winning can kind of get into this flow, and there's some confidence that comes along with that. And so while you're tired and your heart rate might be at a similar place as your opponent, you don't feel nearly as physically drained. But the mental drain and the physical drain of being on bottom and just being grounded and having your face rubbed into the mat, and then you exert all this energy to get up halfway and then they just take you right back down. Man, you can't overstate what that does to you as a fighter, both mentally and physically. So that's why I do think Ricky's going to grind him out here and get that late finish. But decision is a clear-cut decision is a good prediction as well. I think either way, Ricky Simone's going to get his hand raised, and we're going to see why wrestling is truly probably the best base still for mixed martial arts.
Yeah, I'd have to agree with you. Wrestling is going to be a nightmare for anybody to deal with. And the goal about MMA when you get to the ground is not like a jiu-jitsu thing where you can play from the bottom. If you're playing from the bottom in MMA, you're losing. And wrestlers know that. They know how to stay on top. They know how to keep somebody on the ground against their will. And when somebody is trying their best to get up to make the judges realize that I'm not losing this fight, I'm trying to get back to my feet and I'm not succeeding, that can be really rough on the mental side. And I think Ricky Simone's really, really good at that. Maybe one of the best in the division. So I can't wait to see this thing happen. But yeah, my money's on Ricky Simón.
Me too.